Hello, my name is Bart Jacobs. I'm a professor of computer security and privacy at the University in Nijmegen in the Netherlands. And I'm also chair of the Privacy by Design Foundation. That's a non-profit startup foundation existing for almost 4 years now in the Netherlands. And this foundation is running IRMA, which is essentially identity platform, which will be essential in the application that we submitted to the Ministry of Justice. And I'm here with my co-applicant Ineke van Gelder.
My name is Ineke van Gelder and I'm a designer at Informaat in Baden in the Netherlands. And for the past year, we've been working together with Privacy by Design, but also the municipalities of Amsterdam and Haarlem and Leiden and Almere. And we've been working on a complete redesign for the user experience of IRMA. And I think all this experience we've had in working together will add to the challenge of the Ministry of Justice.
In this application, IRMA will be used. IRMA is a very innovative identity platform which uses so-called attributes. Attributes are properties of people. For instance, I'm male, I'm over 50, I'm an inhabitant of the city of Nijmegen. My BSN, my social security number in Dutch, is such and such. This is my email address, this is my mobile phone number, etc. These are all kinds of attributes that people can collect in their IRMA app on their phone and then selectively disclose. So depending on the situation, in a private environment or in a professional environment, you can disclose relevant things of yourself. And we have teamed up with Informaat in a very effective cooperation to broaden what IRMA can offer. And Ineke will tell a bit more about this.
Okay, thank you, Bart. Well, we're designers, and the designers that will be joining the team will be using a systematic approach as to how we're going to solve this challenge. And I think this systematic approach can be best described in three things that we do. We start with something we call understanding. And understanding means we have to find out all about the day-to-day work of the special investigating officers. What is the context in which they work? What is the particular situation in which they use their digital ID? And what particular dialogue do they have with other special investigating officers or colleagues? The second phase will be what we call ideation, where we start to prototype, create extensions maybe to the current IRMA version that are needed for the particular dialogue that these special investigating officers need. And we're going to create a set of principles that will be leading during the third stage, which will be the create stage, where the developers from Privacy by Design will be actually creating the new functionality within IRMA or on top of IRMA that is needed for this particular challenge. So a systematic approach, but with a lot of creativity, especially in the ideation stage, where we're going to create the prototype.
I can add to that IRMA is very innovative. It's relatively new, but it's really being picked up right now. Most support for IRMA now exists within government, especially local government, municipalities, but also within the healthcare sector and within the insurance sectors. And several sectors now really looking into applications and doing pilots. The main breakthrough for IRMA, which happened almost 2 years ago, is that IRMA got connected to what's called the BRP in the Netherlands, which is this National Civil Registration. And via this registration, every citizen in the Netherlands can get authentic attributes about themselves into their IRMA app. And this applies to SIOs as well, and this can form a basis for further additional professional attributes that can be added within this project.
Okay, shall we start with a demo? Now what you see here on the right-hand side is the new version of IRMA. It's the alpha version that we're currently working on. And I'd like to show you how I can use IRMA to identify myself, or in IRMA terminology, how I can disclose only the relevant part of my identity. As you can see, IRMA is a digital wallet protected by a PIN. that contains my personal data. And this data comes from a verified source, in this example from the BRP. And on this card that says persoonsgegevens, there's my personal data, like my name, my first name, last name, my date of birth, whether I'm over 12, 16, 18, my nationality, and my social security number. There's also a card for my physical address, my email address, and my phone number. Now for BOA's, this IRMA wallet would of course contain their personal data coming from the BRS. Now in this example, I need to prove that I'm over 18 in a bar. And this bar has a screen that you can see on the left-hand side. It's a QR code generated by IRMA. And in order to get an alcoholic drink, I need to prove I'm over 18. Now, what I would do within IRMA is I'd press the QR scan button on the lower right-hand side. This would enable my camera. And when I move my camera over the QR code, IRMA comes up with a question, and it asks me whether I really want to disclose my age in terms of the fact that I'm over 18 and my picture, so that I can prove that I'm not holding somebody else's phone. And when I say yes, there's a secure connection between my mobile phone and the system of the bar owner, and both get a message saying that this transaction has succeeded and that I've actually proven that I'm over 18.
What we are going to do, which is really novel in this project, is using IRMA in so-called peer-to-peer authentication. That means two people prove to each other who they are by holding their phones close together. So one phone displays the QR code that you just saw on the webpage. The other phone picks up this QR code and then proves who is the holder of this phone. So typically, one of the phones can be of a CEO, an officer proving to a colleague that he really or she really is a CEO, or that can be done to a member of the public. But in principle, and I don't know yet, but I'd like to find out in further communication whether that's in scope. In principle, it's also possible to use the same technique for checking the identity of members of the public. For instance, in a public transport situation or some other situations where CEOs want to know more about someone they encounter in the street.
Because what you just described is what we in design terms would call a dialogue between two people or a person and a system. And this particular dialogue that we're going to need for the special investigating officers working for the RET hasn't been described in too much detail. So one of the things we would like to start with is to investigate together with the ministry in what's the particular dialogue that these special investigating officers will be performing with their digital identity. Will it be identifying travelers, or will it be identifying with other special investigating officers, maybe from another unit or something? Or will they perhaps use this digital identity to get access to certain buildings or maybe to a certain system? So the particular aspects of the dialogue are going to be crucial in how we're going to integrate IRMA with existing tooling that they exist on their smartphones or maybe on other systems that they use. So finding a match between the day-to-day use of these special investigating officers in connection with the process that the ministry uses to provide these special investigating officers with these digital identities is going to be a very important aspect in our approach.
And we're actively working now on a new version. There is a stable version of IRMA available in the App Store. But this last half year, together with you, Ineke, and together with people from cities of Amsterdam and others, we've been working on a completely new design of the app, really professional design, which is now being released cautiously. Because several people and organizations are already depending and using IRMA, for instance, to log into medical dossiers. We have to do this in a careful way. This new app is not available for the public yet. It's being pushed to beta release right now. and it will be available in the next few weeks in the new professional version. The actual organization and management of this project will be closely coordinated with the Ministry of Justice. We have many questions still about how things will and should be organized in detail, but the main lines we foresee are two things. From a technical perspective, is that on the one hand, the IRMA app should be adapted in a certain way so that it can do this peer-to-peer communication. On the other hand, the special attributes for SIOs should be issued to the phones of SIOs. This requires a new issuance service that should be built. It should be connected and based on this existing BRS infrastructure already containing the attributes about these SIOs, which is similar to this BRP that I mentioned for all citizens. So the whole infrastructure and setup of how to do this is already there. What we need is establish a connection to the existing infrastructure that the ministry has for this. We need to talk to the software support people that the ministry has and to coordinate with those people to elaborate the details. For this project, we foresee a core team of 4 people, and within the Privacy by Design Foundation, we have a kernel of 7 programmers, but we have a flexible pool around this of between by now 10 and 20 programmers who know IRMA very well, that we can call upon on a freelance basis. And we how much and to what extent will appeal to these people, will hire them, depends very much on closer coordination with the ministry, where we'll also find out how much effort should be put in the design phase and how much actually in the implementation work. So we're flexible on this, and we're happy to discuss matters further.
Of these 4 people that we would like to do this challenge with, especially during the first stage, when we'll be investigating the specific context of the special investigating officers, will be designers in the following roles. We're thinking of a UX researcher who will actually work alongside the CEO for a short time to see at what particular moments they'll be using their digital ID, the context, whether it be indoors, outdoors, with other colleagues. So we're gonna really dive into their day-to-day work. And maybe the second role would be a UX designer who will be actually translating all the things we learn to a prototype explaining how this is going to work in IRMA. And as we get along, these designer roles will become less important and the role for the developers will become more important. So we're very flexible as to specific roles we're going to introduce in the team during the project.
As I said, we're happy to discuss these matters further in follow-up contacts with the ministry. To close off, from our side, from the Privacy by Design Foundation, our mission is to organize digital identities in a proper way, in a secure way, in a privacy-friendly way, but also in a way which is very pleasant to use, with a great user experience. And this is why we're so happy with the connection and the close cooperation we have with Informaat. And I think also this cooperation makes this a strong bid and gives us a good chance of bringing this project to a success.